What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla's SPY in the overall market. I'm going to break down some very key levels to watch for what's happening to the news involving Tesla and geopolitics, not to mention what I'm seeing for the share price. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with this market. So as far as Tesla's going, as you guys can tell, Tesla's trying to make higher lows right now, which is a good sign. But we need to see Tesla hold above our 50 EMA. This aligns with the 250 area for this to try to continue to go higher to fill that gap at 262. Now, if we don't get that initially, there could be some kind of like dip here before it tries to continue to push higher, but the trend is a bit more bullish because first off, we're forming a bullish wedge right now. This typically leads to more bullish outcomes. And the second reason is because we're trying to make higher lows. If you guys look at the trend the last couple of weeks, Tesla's been trying to make higher lows. So I'm not saying that the ultimate bottom for Tesla is in. That can't be guaranteed yet. What I am saying is that for the time being, we're trying to go a little higher, and we have a bullish wedge, which gives us some bullish momentum. So this gives Tesla the potential to break higher if we continue to hold these lows. As long as we don't lose them, we should continue to try to uptrend and try to get a breakout to higher levels to fill this gap. If we end up failing, of course, we could turn back down, and you want to be very careful no matter what because of how the news is looking. But for the time being, I just want to say we are looking more bullish from a technical standpoint. Now, the market may also try to follow this trend if we hold support, so I'll talk about everything in just the next couple of minutes. I first want to talk about the news, which is very pivotal for Tesla's future. So the first thing to remember is that for the shorter term, there's obviously a lot of protests going on to boycott Tesla. We're continuing to see more vandalism against them, and this is becoming a very big thing that's going on. I want to say that Tesla is a fantastic company in terms of its long-term fundamentals, but right now there's a lot of negative sentiment with Elon Musk that's still perpetuating around the world. This is hurting their sales in Europe and also in the US, so I want to make that very clear. This could still affect Tesla. Now, much of this news has been going on for a long time. It's not like this just happened overnight, but with all of this going on, of course, the share price are already kind of like priced in a lot of this. So I don't think we need like a major catalyst for this to continue to dump or continue to like really continue like this. I would argue that much of this is already priced in, and that because of that, if the market just try to see some kind of relief, it could still try to bounce despite this. Now, two more things I want to say. Okay, we have different analysts that have different views. We have Wedbush analysts that are telling us that look, there's going to be more protests. There's going to be a lot of hardships for Tesla, but the long term is going to be very bright because of the robo-taxi. And as Tesla starts to develop more streams of revenue, it's going to offset a lot of this. So I'm still very confident in that. However, keep in mind that for the shorter term, the next few months, there could still be a lot of difficulties for Tesla amidst all the fears right now with these tariffs and the protests and all these other things. So for the short term, yes, there's going to be more risk, but the long term is going to be more bright according to Wedbush and different analysts. We saw Wells Fargo actually decrease their price target, so some analysts are actually bearish on Tesla. So they're very mixed views right now. I also want to add on that there's been a lot of talk about the Tesla shorts. We have about $16.2 billion worth of shorting that gains that came out over the last couple of months. Yes, I understand there's going to be periods where shorting Tesla could work really well, but you have to keep in mind for the long term, it's not going to work out because eventually Tesla will squeeze those shorts. That's what happens every single time. It's going to happen again, but we have to wait many months for that to really happen. So Wedbush gave us an outperform rating. Morgan Stanley also gave us an overweight rating last couple of days. Good, at least for Tesla. The price-price ratio is starting to go up just a bit, which is a sign that Tesla's starting to build some strength. This could continue going into this week, so keep that in mind. Mondays are known for being green about 52.39% of the time, and we tend to see more volatility around noon and also at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when Tesla's more volatile. Historically, that April to May period is actually kind of weak for Tesla. We tend to bottom around here. And once we get to June, it tends to get a lot stronger. So I believe approaching June, Tesla's going to have a big run. But for now, there could still be some risk. That may depend on the unsupervised FSD launch in Texas and other things like that. So that's what I'm seeing so far in terms of news in our data. A couple more things when it comes to geopolitics. President Trump mentioned that there's going to be flexibility with his tariffs. That's part of the reason why the market kind of dipped and then bounced on Friday. And then on top of this, we saw the EU delay their tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs on the US. That's some good news for the bulls. However, keep in mind that despite the good news that's coming, We still expect more tariffs to be coming on April 2nd. That could still make things very complicated. It's going to be affecting billions of dollars worth of goods. So April 2nd is when things could change for the stock market. It's going to be a big date. So we're very close. That's going to be next week. For now, we'll just pay attention to what we have for the shorter term. Tomorrow is going to be Monday, March 24th. Keep in mind that at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Composite and Manufacturing PMIs coming out. This may cause more volatility. And that's pretty much it. Also, the fear and greed index is currently at extreme fear, that's making up the majority of sentiment. Momentum is also at extreme fear, and then we're also seeing the put to call option ratio dipping a bit. That's a good sign because we're seeing a little bit less put buying, and we're seeing some call buyers who are coming in. And then the VIX is also dipping close to its 50 daily moving average. That's going to be around that 18.6 areas. Just keep that in mind. The last thing I want to mention is this: when it comes to our earnings, okay, heading into the week, we have very, very minor ones, just a lot of retail and things like that, nothing too crazy. So, with that being said, that is a quick summary of what's happening for the week in terms of news and Tesla news. Let's now focus on what's happening to the charts. So, the first thing you'll notice about Tesla stock is the fact that we're trying to make these higher lows. So, what tends to happen is we make these higher lows like this. We'll see if we get some kind of like rejection here or not initially before it tries to break out like this. But the pattern is pretty much looking like this, where we try to like go higher and eventually get some kind of breakout move, at least temporarily. And even if we do get some kind of breakout, that does not mean we're just going to rally forever. We could just push a little bit higher towards the 270s, 280s before we hit this yellow trend line. The yellow trend line, excuse me, that's where Tesla rejected many times. We got rejection, 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 rejection many, many times. So even if we do get some kind of rally, we really need to break this yellow trend line to officially try to turn more bullish. If we can't do that, there's still going to be a risk of us turning back down from there for the next leg down. So just keep that in mind. That's what the trend could look like. But anyways, we're not too worried about that yet. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. I'm just trying to show you what the bigger picture is. For the short term, we're looking more bullish as we're testing that 250 area. And the daily chart on Tesla is looking a little bit stronger. If you guys look at this daily pattern, it tends to be more bullish as we're making this wedge. So my conclusion is this: watch your levels. If we could break and hold above 250 tomorrow, I think we could be pushing for that 262 target. If we reject off 250, we're looking for a dip back down towards 244. If that does not hold, we could be dipping to about 239. So watch those levels very closely. 244 and 239 is our supports. And if 250 breaks, we're looking for an attempt to fill this gap up here around this 262 area. So that being said, what do I see at least for Tesla moving forward? My view is this: I think tomorrow we try to push for this resistance. I'm not sure if we break past 250 yet. We might see some kind of pullback move first, but then if we eventually reclaim that either as soon as tomorrow, if not later on during the week, we should be looking for an attempt for 262 as the most likely case. But we're not going to break past 250 easily. There might be some shuffling, even a small dip that comes first before it tries to get that breakout. So please keep that in mind. I'm just here to be very unbiased when I say that. When it comes to SPY, we're attempting to make higher lows right here, which is a good sign. However, I want to remind everyone to be careful because of the possibility of this, left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder. But that could also be a trap. These don't always pan out. Here's what I think is going to happen, though. I don't really favor that. I think what's going to happen is we're going to be watching for a push tomorrow morning, whether we gap down first and go, or if we just push from here, look for 568 to be tested, okay? Now, as long as we don't lose 558, if we lose that 555 to 558 area, it's going to be a bad sign. We turn bearish if this happens, right? If we get rejection of 568 and we can't hold 555, that's bearish. So watch that level. It's going to be very important. If we break and hold above 568, if we could hold it or close above that, that's also aligning with our daily 200 EMA. There's a good chance that we're trying to make higher lows, and we're going to continue to uptrend like this to go for that 575 to 580 area. So that's looking very, very probable to me. Now, looking at SPY, we have the support here. We're actually trying to ride this higher, so I think it's looking pretty good. So my gut feeling is that we're going to go for this resistance at 568. I don't know if we're going to break this yet. We'll see if we get an initial sell-off back down to like 562 first before we continue to push higher like this. I'm hoping this is what happens, and that this head and shoulders is like a trap for shorts, and we see an attempt to get back up to 575. I do lean a little bit more in favor of this. But in case you guys are confused, in case the price action is not clear, always watch your levels. You want to know what your levels are. If we break 568, it's bullish. If we lose 558, that's a bad sign. Lose 555, and then we're bearish. Okay, so watch those levels going into tomorrow. But I do favor a move like this where we kind of push for that 568 target. We get some kind of fake out drop. We try to hold this support, and then we just continue to push for the 570s. I am a little bit more optimistic because I do think that the market has some leeway approaching these reciprocal tariffs. I would like to see a little rally approaching them. I think there's a very, very good chance of that. Another reason why I talk about that is because when you look at the daily charts, we're getting a bullish cross in the PPO, which typically favors upside. And then also we have some we have a good chance of trying to retest these EMAs again. So they're going to be acting as a magnet, in my opinion. So heading into tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if SPY kind of pushes for that 568 area. We'll see if we break it or not on the first attempt. If we just break this, we could just shoot straight up for 575. It depends. If not, we could pull back a bit first before it tries to push back up. As long as we hold this trend line, we're going to remain bullish. And I think there's a good chance we try to look bullish. So my view of SPY is more bullish. I think we're trying to make higher lows, and we attempt to continue this uptrend. For the QQQ, and let me close this by the way, so just to clarify that for later. For the QQQ, the same thing is essentially going on. So the QQQ is in a range, right? If you break 485 on the QQQ, I think we easily push for this high at 492. If we lose 474, we're looking for a dump back down to fill this gap around 470. Then we could be retesting 468. What I like about this chart is that we have a potential, a left shoulder, kind of maybe not like a perfect left shoulder, maybe like a double bottom here, and we're trying to form like a higher low. So this is like a higher low forming right like this, and this could be trying to get us to go higher. So it's possible the left shoulder is already like down here, and we're kind of like in a slanted pattern. But my point is, if we break and hold 485, we're going to be looking bullish. We're trying to make higher lows. So if we could try to hold this trend line like this, there's a good chance it might be trying to form a wedge. So we'll see about that. My prediction for tomorrow is that as long as we don't lose 474, we're going to be fine, by the way. We see some kind of test of 478, maybe even close to this trend line. Then we start pushing for 485. If we break that, we're going to be looking to go a little bit higher. I do think this is looking a little bit more bullish as we're holding support. So my general view is a little bit more bullish, but just to be safe, make sure you watch your levels. For the Russell 2000, it looks a little bit more bullish to me because we have an inverse head and shoulders, right? There's like a left shoulder, a head, potential right shoulder like this, right? So that's a good sign. If we hold above 205, I think we push for 208 to 210. If we can't hold around like 200, I do expect us to dump towards like 198. With this inverse head and shoulders, I do favor it's going to be pushing for 205. If that breaks, we're looking for like 210. I think there's a good chance we try to push higher with this nice accumulation that's forming. So overall, I think that we're looking a little bit more bullish. For ES, we're looking pretty good. We do have this gap over here, so I would be kind of careful because of that. We'll see if ES does something like this where it kind of pushes upwards, comes down to fill this gap, and then starts going. But overall, it's still attempting this uptrend. We're going to be watching, maybe not this trend line. We can actually adjust this maybe like this to see if this ends up holding. And then what we could also do is kind of like draw this out like this. This would kind of look like a channel that we're in. There's a good chance we're trying to channel upwards. I think there's a good chance we try to hold our EMAs. So we'll see how well ES holds up here. I wouldn't be surprised if we dip first and start continuing to go for that 5,800 target. If we end up losing 5,650, though, I will become a little bit more concerned. We did call out that support on Friday. We held it so far, so it's a good sign. We're going to try to continue to uptrend. So as long as 5,650 does not break, we're favoring upside for ES, and we may just continue to uptrend. For NQ, we're making higher lows here. I want to see us break past 20,100. If that's the case, we're looking for essentially 20,500. If we end up losing 19,500, we're looking for a move back down towards 19,400. With this double bottom inverse head and shoulders, as long as we're above 20,100, we're looking for an attempt for 20,500 is our next target. As long as we don't lose 19,800, we're looking for a move like this where we kind of like dip and then continue to uptrend for 20,500. I do favor upside with this accumulation that's forming. So overall, there's potential in this, at least nonetheless. For Bitcoin, if we lose 84,000, we're looking for a dump back down to 82,000. If we hold this, we're looking for an attempt for 87,000. So I think we're looking quite good. I think we favor 87,000 as long as 84,200 does not fail us. I think we're doing a great job. For Nvda, I think we're doing a great job as well. We have a potential left shoulder here, a head, and then a right shoulder. We're also getting very tight here, so I do expect a lot of volatility to be coming very soon. So I do see a very, very nice tightness in the charts. This may be favoring a big move for the upcoming week. I want to see this hold above 120. If we hold it, I see a 125. If we lose 115, it's going to be a bad sign. We're going to be dipping towards like 111. My gut tells me we consolidate, then we eventually start breaking past 120 to push even higher. I do favor that a little bit more. For Tesla, like I said before, it's looking bullish wedge. Might dip first off this 250 test before it tries to break it, but I do think we could be looking for 262 if that breaks. For Aapl, We're looking a little bit more bullish. I want to see it hold 215. If we hold 215, I'm looking for 220, then 225. If 215 fails us, we could be dipping towards 212, but I favor 220, then 225 as our targets. For Netflix, we're on a very, very nice uptrend so far. If we end up losing 935, we're looking for a dip closer to about 921. And as long as we're above 930, 935-ish, I think we're favoring, we want to get closer to about this imbalance over here around this like 980 area. So it's bullish. As long as we don't lose like, the 930s, we're favoring a push up to about the 980 area. For MicroStrategy, we have a nice double bottom right here. If we end up holding above 305, we're looking for an attempt for 325. If we end up losing 287, we're looking for a dump back down to fill this gap over here around to 266. So we have a nice double bottom here. As long as we hold above 304, we're looking for an attempt for 325. I think there's a good chance we try to continue at least from here. For Celsius, we're trying to make higher lows right now. If we end up losing 30.9, we could be dipping, but I think that there's a good chance we uptrend and we just try to go for that 34 target. So it's looking pretty good. For Supermicro, I want to mention that we're attempting to make higher lows right here. So I think this is looking pretty good. If we end up losing 40.5, it's going to be a bad sign. If we lose this trend line, we're looking for a move back down to 35. As long as we hold it, I think we favor an attempt to get back up to this imbalance over here. That would take us to like the 45s, and eventually back up to 48. So it does look a little bit more bullish to me. Palantir, so long as we don't end up losing this trend line as well, we're favoring a move back up to slowly push for that like 95-ish area. So I do see some potential in this. For Rivian, we're looking bullish. We're trying to hold support right here around this 10.7 area. As long as we get back above like 11.75, we're favoring 12 points to 12 point what was that 12.06 to 12.2. So pretty good move. I'm a little concerned about this resistance here. Might see a move down first to test these EMAs before it tries to go. But this is looking like a nice accumulation, and we could see a nice move right over here to finish our overall pattern. So it looks pretty good. SoFi, like I said before, we had this drawn out. We're holding the trend line. As long as this holds, we do favor a move back up for about that 13.85 target. If we end up losing 12.5, we will turn back down, but this is looking bullish, so I favor upside. AMD looks a little bit more bullish. As long as we don't end up losing 103.5, we're favoring a push back up to about 110. If 103.5 fails this, we could be dipping to about the 100 area. As long as we're above that, we're favoring 110. So I think this chart looks bullish. ARM looks so. It's not that great. We're kind of consolidating right now. I want to see it break 120 to turn back up. If we lose 115, we turn back down. We're just range bound. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks. So it's most likely going to just consolidate. Same thing with Coinbase. We're just consolidating. We have support around this 178 area. We have resistance at 195 to 200. My gut tells me we push for 195. We consolidate a little bit longer before it tries to get a bigger move, but it depends on which way we break. I want to see us hold above 195 and then 200 to remain bullish. We're completely just range bound now until that happens. For Amazon, 192 is support, 200 is resistance. We're going back and forth right here. If it breaks 198, we're looking for an attempt to get up to 202, so we'll see how well that does. For Meta, I want to see us get back above 608. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt for 622. If we lose 585, we could turn back down, but we're just completely range bound, looking for 608 as our target. For Microsoft, we have kind of like an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. If we end up losing 386, we could be dipping back down towards that 385 target. If we manage to break and hold above 395, we're looking for 400. My gut tells me that as long as 388 does not break, we could be pushing for 395. For Google, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like pattern. I want to see us break past 168. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt for 172. If we lose 163, we could turn back down towards 161, but I'm favoring 168 right now. Looks a little bit more bullish. GameStop is looking pretty good. I need to see it hold above 25.4 to remain bullish. If we don't hold that, we could retest 24. It's kind of in the middle, but it's favoring upside as long as we get back above 25.4. AMC looks a little bit more bullish. I want to see it break past 3.1 to continue to push for 3.15. For DJT, I want to see us hold above 20.25 to break to 21. So it looks a little bit more bullish to me. For the VIX, it looks a little bit more bearish. Unless it gets back with 19.61, we're actually favoring downside. So it's favoring the downside, especially as we have the support here around this like 17.85 area. This makes me suspect the market goes a bit higher as of right now, right? That's what it's looking like. The 10-year looks bullish. If we break past 4.27, we're looking for an attempt to go to 4.32. And the dollar is looking a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 103.86. We're favoring upside, which tends to be a decent, not the best of signs for the market actually. But so far, it's not really affecting us too much, even though it's been uptrending a bit for the last couple of days. The market's been making higher lows, so it's not really affecting us. Even though the dollar is looking a bit more bullish, we'll see how this ends up continuing. Anyways, my view of the market is that we're attempting to make higher lows, and Tesla stock of all things is also trying to form a bullish wedge, which is a good sign. Overall, we'll see how it ends up performing at that 250 area if we get a rejection or not first. But then ultimately, I do see us trying to break that to go to 262. Anyways, that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out.